All right, so to maximize our potential and the potential we bring to all others around us, we give thanks in the beginning, as we always do. Om Gyanantirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangu Langete Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sunya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So as we always recite, I was born without knowledge and my spiritual teacher has opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my sincere respects to them. Second, I offer my sincere respects to my spiritual teachers. Their grace turns the dumb into eloquent speakers and enables the lame to cross mountains. And lastly, I offer my sincere respects to all of you, divine seekers, who can fulfill the desires of everyone because they are full of compassion for all living beings. So again, thank you so much for being here to one of the highlights of my week every week. Sharing this book and our discussions and our insights together. So as we always recall, our culture of bringing our full presence and respect to all, and the determination to do the work that is both revealing and exciting, but sometimes challenging. And as we have always said, our two practices for cultivating this quality of humility that is so important to understanding the information in this book is we always try to remember the good we have done for the good other people have done for us, and maybe the not so good we have done for others. And the two things we try to let go of are the bad others have done to us and the good we have also done for others, to keep us in the space of wanting to always move forward and not try to kind of rest on our laurels.
Can I just add something there?
Please.
These two slides have been so powerful for me, especially the first one, whereby, can you just go for the first one?
Yes.
What good others have done for you and what bad you have done to them. I kid you not, I have this in my mind more and more, the more you put it up. In fact, I'm always taking a slideshot. I know I've got them over and over, but it really helps, because when you're frustrated or annoyed with somebody, I just remember this, and then I just thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
No, thanks. And that's why I choose to show it every single class. I know for now you guys have memorized it and you know it for sure, but it's always, there's some fundamental things that we always like to come back to every week, and this is definitely one of them. So thank you. So as we have chatted about now, we're in the last section of Yoga and the Dark Night of Soul, and we're in the fourth agreement. And so if you remember there's three main teachings that Krishna explains to Arjuna in this section. The first, which we finished off with last week, engaging your heart in your yoga practice. I just wanted to recall from last week, we had an exercise where, I'm not sure if you were here, Avantika, but basically what we were doing is we were really trying to, we were trying to engage our heart. So we were trying to look at what prevented us from connecting with our heart and being compassionate. And then we talked about the next step to changing our approach to being more kind and compassionate. Can everyone, I know we summarized at the end a few points that some of us had shared. Does anyone want to share any of the points? I know myself, Stacy, Tiffany had shared anything. Can someone just reflect those back? It's okay that we've forgotten, no problem. That's why we're here, to remind ourselves. So I recall one point, Stacy saying that, you know, one of the things we can do to be more kind and compassionate is trying to do more things we love. Stacy, does that ring a bell?
Yes, I was trying to find my notes.
Okay.
Trying to figure out what the date was today. Yes, exactly. I mentioned there was a study done about how if you spend at least 20% of your time, or if you spend 20% is where you get the full benefit really of your time doing what you love. It just changes your whole energy level and your outcomes for the rest of the day. It's like red threads going through your day. And that's something that I also have experienced. It's some research by a psychologist by the name of Marcus Buckingham.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it really goes back to the point that we come back to often, is of trying to, fill our cup as much as we can, right?
Correct.
Or we go out in the world and, want to try to be a positive vehicle for change. So I think it's a really great one, because then, it's hard to be, these qualities of kindness and compassion, they're not easy all the time and they take effort. But, if we're filled, then one of my mentors, he says, what we're sharing in the world is really just an overflow of what we're experiencing. And so again, just filling up that cup as much as we can. I'm glad there's a number now attributed to it. But yeah, no, thank you I just wanted to recall that point. Did anyone want to share what the others had shared? I know Tiffany had also made a nice point. Did anyone capture that?
I think even Stacy, I'm not sure if Tiffany had said to pause and go to one's heart, go into my heart.
Yeah, I think I'm recalling Tiffany's point was, take a pause and just really, pause, take a deep breath, and just, try to hold the space, which is always also a good, a great reflection to remember, especially in the moment. Anything else that wanted to be shared on kind of some of the steps that we are trying to take ourselves for approaching kindness and compassion? Avantika, sure.
Oh.
Yeah, it's powerful exercise. I think we started doing this, the class that I was on, and we ended that, and I missed the class that you was, but I can piece it together with everything everyone is saying. And yeah, from my life, I think that, for me, compassion and kindness, everything that you said, being open-hearted and all of that, but it's also about recognizing that what is the source of the lack of kindness and compassion. Observing that in oneself, observing that in someone else. A few, things are fear, anger, and blame. So fear, anger, and blame all originate from a state of feeling like you had a desire. So you're very attached to that desire, the outcome. And for some reason, you saw something, someone, some situation, or some experience as an impediment or an obstacle, or you didn't get what you wanted, or this thing. And whatever your source of lack of kindness or lack of compassion is, whether it's yourself, a lot of people do go into self-rejection and self-blame. A lot of people direct that and channel that towards their loved ones. I think it's really about understanding, just connecting the dots of everything. What Stacy said, doing more of what you love. Someone else said, stop and pause and reflect. But it all comes down to live a life that is radically accountable to yourself, to be focused on detachment from outcomes. And I loved something that, I've forgotten her name. She's such an amazing person. Who's that person that Arlene in the Titans group? I was watching her Connect session with this thing. There are so many powerful people that came on connection with villages, and I watched all those videos. But I loved one thing that, humble, sweet, modest Arlene said. She said, "You must be good because it's good to be good." That's it. That's it. That's all she said. It wasn't about anything big. So when I look at kindness and compassion, I again always bring it back to what are the areas in our life that have, in some way in our head, we've kind of aggrandized ourselves, if that's a word, I don't know. But like there's a small aspect of megalomania where everyone believes they're the center of the universe and the world should, there's kind of an entitlement. And in that entitlement, we feel that, we need to have some sort of a position towards the environment we're in. And when we kind of dial that back and say that, no, actually, we're just a tiny little being in this whole scheme of things, that vulnerability makes us more compassionate, I think. It's just about dialing things down. A lot of people have been conditioned to believe that life is striving towards some sort of great big outcome. And that's why we have emperors and invaders and all sorts of moguls and things like that. And that's where people lose their essence of being human, being compassionate and being kind, because it's, you don't have to train a mother to be kind and compassionate towards the baby. You don't have to train any kind of, in nature, it's actually indoctrined in people. It's a survival skill. It's an evolutionary skill, actually, to be kind and compassionate. And somewhere I think we get in our own way when we step away from that and make our life all about us, So I think kindness and compassion automatically comes when you start seeing everything around you as an extension of you, and start switching your purpose. So everything you're doing it to yourself. That's it. That one mantra. Everything I'm doing it to myself. There is no right or wrong, but the person responsible for all action and all inaction is I. And the result, the reward, the punishment is the same. The outcome is the same. I get to live with the person that made those choices. That is myself. When that becomes the mantra you live by, then kindness and compassion is so easy, because it's so easy to be kind to a universe that you are so engaged in. The more you feel you're separate, the more you kind of feel you should have any kind of a position which is anything other than kind or compassionate. That's what I feel.
Well, thank you for sharing the, just the point, always coming back of what I was gathering from everything you said was just this point on radical accountability. And so, yeah, just it's so easy, and the slip happens really quick where we just, where we look at the world and it's happening, to me, right? Instead of for me. So yeah, thanks for that. I really appreciate it. Anybody else wanted to build on that or share anything else from last week before we move on? Please, Stacey.
It's interesting you say, I'm glad someone put a number on it and things. My clients are very analytical and not at all like the Titans, right? And it's like everything needs to be kind of, proven in some way. But the interesting thing is it's so easy to prove it all in science already. There are studies that are saying the same thing that we're saying. It's just simply in a different language, right? That maybe seems more palatable. And one of the things I've done at the end of my program now that I've just connected with what you said, Avantika, is to kind of do this guided visualization that kind of shows that we're all connected. And that just makes perfect sense in the way that you've said it, in that, separation is really, it's kind of a root cause. If you perceive separation, right, you think that there's something you could try to have power over people and be unkind and things. But when you realize that everyone's connected, it's like that's just you and another part of you, right, that you are treating in that unkind manner. And it becomes something that's again part of your character, right, that to be kind when you realize that divine connection.
Yeah. And even to the point that Avantika was saying, like the more we can kind of like go deeper when we explore like where our lack of kindness and compassion comes for, I feel like for me, that's one of always the biggest drivers to then be able to, relate to others when they're in a similar state and it's coming at me. Then, to be able to step in someone else's shoes by first really going deep into our shoes, I think is a really, really important thing to do on a very regular basis, because then, there's less of this mindset of just always being kind of defensive and attributing things to others.
And that too is connectedness, right? What you've just described is connectedness, because you're connecting your experience with somebody else's.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Avni, did you have another thing to was that your hand up? Please.
So it's actually, I've just had a beautiful eureka moment, which has been illuminated because of what Avantika and also Stacey have said, and also yourself in the passage. I was going to ask the group for about a specific situation whereby I've been hurt. I feel my character has been misjudged, and it's been said in form of a text. Now, before I spoke, thank God I paused, and I thought about it again, where Avantika said that we are really minute in this whole vast world, and the ego comes to play. Why to me? Why? So I stopped, and actually I have one particular person, and I'm actually very mindful of the fact that this is being recorded, but that I've actually re-looked at it and reframed it and said to myself with that word of connection, is that actually that particular soul that I initially, a few moments ago, and it has been bothering me, thought was a soul that is against me, that not the soul even, I looked at the person, not the soul. Now, when you look at the soul, I've actually rewritten it and said, this soul is one that cares for me the most, as it is providing the grounds of testing me and giving me the opportunity to grow. It's giving me those hard times in order for me to practice everything I'm learning here and everywhere else. So actually now, when I look at that person, I can't help but think, wow, thank you so much. And keep on go. Either you keep on going and testing and giving me the opportunity, or because I've had this epiphany, this eureka moment, actually that soul might also become peaceful and say, hey, she's got it. This soul has got it. So that's all, move on and say, okay, who else can I test or think? So I've had a really amazing, and thank you. I am a bit scared of seeing that person, but I'm excited at the same time. Okay.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I will say that I think, for all of us, we can see that some tests repeatedly come. And, if we really try to embrace sometimes the lessons that come, and it has to come in a deep way and not a superficial way, then, you know, when it comes again, we've learned and we're able to kind of evolve to some, you know, something higher. We all notice that, you know, we've changed, we've grown, and then different challenges come, right? But they come as the new ones come as we've, you know, tried to embrace, and then, you know, the divine compassion, I think, is the same things coming to us repeatedly for us to learn. Like we get that chance, right? We just have to be the ones, as Avantika was mentioning, take accountability as best, you know, try as best possible to learn from it and move forward. But no, thanks for that just very uplifting and inspiring perspective on, I'm sure, what can be easy for yourself. So Avantika said, add the very short story by Neil Donald Walsh, The Little Soul in the Sun. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, it's a very, very short story. So yeah, I could literally say it in a minute. But do read it. It's a beautiful, powerful story. It's especially for your kids. Read it to your kids. It's actually written he's written the, you know, Conversations with God series. So he's written them for the adults, but this is a short story just for children. And it's very biblical in its tones, but it does have some reincarnation in it as well. Anyway, so the whole thing is about, you know, God was having conversation with all these little souls that had just been created. And clearly, you know, the infantile version of soul. So there's a little soul that was having very enduring conversation. So all the souls came around to listen to what that conversation was. And the soul was really ecstatic and eager, just a little bit like Avni. She's like, I know, I had this eureka, I found what I found. So the soul was also jumping up and said, I found finally who I'm here to be and why I was created. And God is like, oh, great. So what did you discover? And he said that the soul said that I found that, and I'm just quoting this from memory, I found that I was created because I'm here to be and to experience. So God said, very good. That's a wonderful thing. That's what everyone needs to learn. And good that you've discovered that that's the purpose of your being. So the little soul said, now that I've discovered that I'm here to be, I want to be something. I want to experience something. So God said, okay, what do you want to experience? And so the little soul said, okay, I want to experience forgiveness. And so God said, okay, but do you know something, that there is nothing to forgive? So the little soul was really crushed. He said, how can I experience being forgiving if there's nothing to forgive? So God said, take a look at all the souls here. I have created nothing but angels. So which of these do you think is someone that you feel would be needing forgiveness? So the little soul was really disappointed. Then another soul came up and said that, okay, I will help you and I will, so the little soul said, you so powerful and so, I mean, your light is so bright, I can hardly look at you. Why would you do that? So the little soul said, because in other times you've helped me. So I will lower my vibration and I will give you that lesson, that experience in forgiveness. But you must remember through it all who you are and who I am, because I will forget. I would have lowered my vibration so much that I will forget who I am. But it's only if you also don't remember, then we will be stuck in that loop forever. So you have to remember who I am. And the little soul promised, I will remember who you are. No matter what you do, I will remember this conversation and this light. And thank you so much for giving me that experience. But the whole thing was just like this thing, and it ends with God saying to the little soul that just remember, I have sent you nothing but angels. So yeah, it's a beautiful soul, a beautiful story. And that's what life is, I think.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was just thinking I would have been that little soul too, be like, what are you talking about?
Very endearing story. I know I just said it in this thing. It's about a great bedtime story. I've read it to my niece a few times, and we had a great conversation after that. So
Yeah,
I recommend it.
thank you.
It's an amazing story. I learned it during my NLP time, and it's good to read it again and again and again and again and again. And Avantika, I think I'm talking to the right person, but if it hasn't been animated, please make it into a video.
I don't know about the copyright, but sure, why not? Yeah.
Great. So I was hoping we could start with, so we were basically at this section of chapter 15, widening your circle. And I was just wondering if someone would read the first part. So it's basically page 301 if you have the book, and it's chapter 15 otherwise. Please, Avni.
I love it. Okay, great. Widen your circle. Walk into any coffee shop and you'll see what an incredible sophisticated vocabulary we have for coffee. Americano, cappuccino, latte, espresso, cafe, cubano, flat white, macchiato, cafe, au lait, chai latte, frappuccino. The list seems endless, but oddly, we only have 1 or 2 words for love. Love is a beautiful word, but the same little delicate word can be used to mean any number of things, from what pleases our palate to sexual passion, and from deep friendship to love of all beings and more. The ancient Greeks had 6 words for different types of love. I've counted more than 20 in the esoteric heart-based Bhakti tradition of India. Its sacred texts distinguish between fleeting conditional love based on our small human stories and undying, unconditional love at the level of soul beyond our temporary narratives. We might call the first type small love and the other sacred love. Even within the category of sacred love, the incredibly detailed Bhakti teaching differentiates between various kinds of love, defined by their flavor and strength. These esoteric texts, written to illuminate the journey of the soul, describes the profound experiences of greatest of devotional mystics. They articulate the steady development of sacred love, guiding the student in a way that fully satisfies the heart. What are some of the differences between small love and sacred love? The sacred love texts sometimes speak of the purity of love. This implies that what passes as love in everyday life can be contaminated by ego, by the desire to manipulate or control, by narcissism, jealousy, unkindness, false perceptions, and selfish intent. When we say, I love you, we're usually more focused on I than on the quality of love we are offering. This expression of illusionary ego is known as the small love. Trapped within our own small, imagined stories, our expression of love is fickle and limited. If someone supports us in our story, they have our love and attention. But if someone undermines subverts our story, we feel threatened and withhold our love. Put simply, small love can be highly conditional. In small love, we often believe our love depends first on finding the right person to love. Packaging ourselves as a commodity, we try to enhance our own value by making ourselves more attractive. We then look for someone who represents a good exchange in the relationship marketplace. In small love, we also don't truly see the person we claim to love at the level of the soul. We see only a secondary character in our own little story. We perceive others in relation to our illusionary ego and its needs. Ultimately, it's a love based on illusion, and therefore it generally lasts only as long as a relationship serves both parties in the same way. Hence, we find that two people can declare their undying love for each other one day and their intense hatred for each other another day. Ardent friends become ardent enemies. This is the conditional and temporary nature of small love. Moreover, small love is typically limited to just a small circle of friends and relatives. While some people extend their love to their community or their country, rarely do we find a kind of love that extends to souls without discrimination. We struggle to love those we can't relate to, or those who hurt or betray us. We may even have difficulty holding love in our hearts for ourselves. This can be most demanding of all. By contrast, sacred love operates beyond the stories we enact and the play of form in this world. Embracing all souls, sacred love is not as an accidental venture, a love we fall into. Rather, it's a capacity that is awakened and strengthened. Someone whose heart is filled with sacred love expresses their love in all their relationships. Sacred love, therefore, doesn't depend upon finding the right person to love, nor does it oscillate between love and hate. All souls, not least ourselves, are rightful recipients of love. In Sanskrit, sacred love is called bhakti. Bhakti yoga is the yoga practice of culturing such unconditional love by directing it to the soul of all souls. The word bhakti first appears in the Bhagavad Gita in the chapter on realized knowledge or wisdom. This dissociates bhakti both from mere intellectualism and from mere sentimentality. Sacred love doesn't indulge our illusions, nor does it blind us. Rather, it's deeply illuminating, connecting us with what is true. It's the living heart of wisdom. Sacred love or bhakti is the only kind of love that can quench the thirst of the soul. This love, when awakened, flows freely from the heart and leads to immense happiness and fulfillment. The yogi who attained sacred love experiences ecstasy. We might think this kind of selfless, unconditional love that extends to everyone is the way saints love. I'm not a saint. I can't possibly love that way. But remember, Arjun was not a wandering state, but a warrior. Krishna's teachings on sacred love are therefore meant for everyone. We can all find soul fulfillment through a love of this. Krishna reveals that Bhakti Yoga is his most confidential teaching, his secret of all secrets. In Bhakti Yoga, the yoga or yogini intensifies her love by purifying and deepening it. Love and compassion in their truest sense are unlimited states of being. The more we practice them, the more they grow. At first, our love might be tainted by ego, attachment, and the desire to control, but gradually, through practice, our love can become purer and shine more brightly, leaving it unbounded, healing, and deeply fulfilling.
Thanks, Avni. Any comments or reflections from this section? Anything that stood out?
Thank you for reading. For me, there was so much of it. I mean, I think it started with the small story of "I love you" and the small love being focused around the I. I thought that was telling, as well as most people revolve around a small circle of friends and relatives. So that, contrasting that to sacred love being an expression of ecstasy, I mean, and a love of all things. I mean, that's a fairly big contrast.
Mhm. Yeah, Paul, I also really like connected with when he was just got us to think about that statement of I love you, and the I versus the quality of the love. That's a really profound statement to like just consider looking at it that way. I really liked how it's quite clear, he takes a section to define what small love is, and then also compare it and contrast it to sacred love. I was appreciating that. And there was one section, and I think, it was just speaking to not just the people we deal with, but Stacey, you were just saying, a lot of the people that you deal with, I deal with, they're all analytical people. And I really like this section here in 304, where it talks about how bhakti is a combination of head and heart, where it's both, it's disassociates from both mere intellectualism and from mere sentimentality. Because I think most people will see most things that are spiritual as something probably more sentimental, and they need that that analytical part, I think, feeds the intellectualism. And so I really I can really see both from this statement and just personal practice that it requires a combination of both. Like, it needs to be our practice of whatever we do should be grounded in knowledge, and in bhakti, that's referred, or just in yoga, that's referred to gyan, or just knowledge. But then to actually that realized knowledge or applied knowledge comes in the the application of both head and heart. Anything else from this section that really stood out?
Did you have anything extensive planned after this? Because depending on that, I'll share something. Otherwise, we can move on.
I just had a reflection exercise that really
We should go to that. We should go to that.
Okay, so what I wanted to do, and this is really just an opportunity to really try to widen our own circles, and the reflection question was that for us just to recall an instant when you chose to interact and build a relationship with someone who reflect on both. One, you disagreed with continuously, and two, had a very different personality type than you. And the reason I'm mentioning these two things is because these are the two things that I actively try to do on a regular basis to widen my circle, because we'd have a tendency to we're drawn to obviously people that are like us, right? But then really trying to make an effort with maybe someone who doesn't see things the way we do, or is our certain personality. And then obviously we want to be with people who reaffirm what we think or say or do. So then looking at potentially someone or individuals that may that we know are disagree with us. So I just wanted us to take an opportunity to maybe reflect on something where we have done this in the past. And usually sometimes we have to build a relationship with either of the two categories, not usually out of willingness, but we're it's circumstance and we're forced to. Stacy?
I think inevitably, if you work in a corporate role, you end up doing that a lot, or, if you're dealing with the public.
Mhm.
And I think that has been a source of, I think for me, a lot of impatience, right? It's just like they're not getting it, um, and I think kind of accepting people, meeting them where they are, really helps with that. Because not everyone even, not even everyone even wants to build the bridge, right? But you're going to have to deal with some people. So it just is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, you talked about two good situations. The work situation usually brings out interacting with, the individuals that we had noted, and for sure, definitely positions of leadership. It's really just part of the role that, it's really the responsibility of the leader to be able to work with different types of individuals and, try to bring some sort of harmony to lead a group of people. So yeah, those are really great examples. Anyone else wanted to share anything?
Yeah, I'll go. Sacred love is, I mean, there are many aspects of spirituality that I have some ways to go in, but sacred love is something that I've been, I don't even know if I chose it, but it kind of was an area which initiated me into my most powerful journey of transformation.
Mm.
And it started off, my dark nights of soul all started off there. In an understanding of the contrast between the false narratives of love and what really love means and what expansive love means. It started off with the Dark Nights of Soul, giving a lot of contrast to being surrounded by sycophancy, by superficial relationships, and relationships built on convenience and contract. I would say that human history is kind of built on those kind of relationships. And it also originated in a yearning for a desire to be able to connect and commune with something, some sort of an object of reciprocity, which would be able to fill that yearning inside, that arises when one is awakened into that. And when one has gone from pillar to post, then pillar to post, then pillar to post, and then one realizes that that has always been, that source has always been a bottomless well inside of you that you have to connect with. That was when something really clicked. And since then, life has not been the same. I would love to give an experience to the group at some point on what I'm talking about, because it doesn't have language to it, but it's about how one can connect with virtually the soul and the essence of anything within themselves. And I think that's another aspect of Bhakti Yoga as well. It's, first you need an external object of affection, and then you internalize that and you become that object of you become Krishna, literally. You, and not from a perspective of megalomania, but from the perspective being able to have everything that you're connected with inside of you. For me, the last frontier, after having conquered battles with workplaces, with relationships, with everything, was, and I found this as a therapist also, it's true for most people, it's those love-hate relationships which are closest to you, your primary relationships, usually with your mother, usually with maybe the person that's your significant other, someone that you love so much that they know exactly how to, get at you. and the person that you have expectations from. So in the reflection exercise, for me, the biggest victory has been in healing my relationships with my primary family. Going from a place of feeling always on the outside looking in to feeling like, oh my God, I am so loved. And so much love has been available to me. I just was blind to it. That healing thing has happened. I think it didn't happen in the corporate world. It didn't happen in the global stage with all the various formats of relationships and friendships that I entered and engaged with. It happened all the way back here at home where it started. So I think the people in our life, I realized all fit, on these two hands is what we're left with. Wide circle, obviously. And I think today my reflection and the gratitude thing was that I'm so grateful that I have this expansive, vast circle of inclusiveness and diversity that I can connect with. But I know that I'm here to nurture primarily a completeness of every flavor of emotion and gratitude and reciprocity with maybe 5 people in my life that have been constants or very majorly involved, and maybe 5 other people that I have shared experience with, which is very significant. So for me, it's that, a big circle and then a little circle. The big circle is very, very, very expansive and includes everything. And the little circle is very compact, but very powerful. And that is usually where all the triggers of everything you ask in the reflection question sits and has that for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I think all of us can say there's like, kind of this, I call it the circle of trust, which is those maybe core 5, and then the people around. So, and as you mentioned, we've talked about this multiple times. I think last week I had mentioned, one of the things that I think I shared this last week, but Radhanan Swami, he had said, like, if we want to really, have a litmus test for our own evolution, our spiritual evolution, we look at how good the relationships are with the closest people to us in our 4 walls, not the people outside of those 4 walls, because it's very easy to have those, close relationships with cousins and friends and colleagues, but it's much more challenging with those people in our 4 walls. And since I heard that, it really stayed with me, because it kind of turned the light on what I needed to focus on, because we use sometimes the external relationships to seek what we're, to get what we're seeking for, at the expense of, walking away or maybe suppressing the relationships that are, closest to us. So yeah, no, thank you. One of the things I wanted to share just from my reflection from this is, something that I've tried to do. And one of the reasons I thought about this reflection question is because I've been pleasantly surprised, and I'm not sure if anyone else has, but even within this group, like, for example, people with a different personality than myself. So I know for sure that I'm extroverted type of person, and I've actively tried within, the circle of the Titans to cultivate relationship with those who are introverted. And it's been really, really, like, I've just been really pleasantly surprised by doing that. And it's really, given me like a lot more, I guess you could say, like, trust in widening that circle, because it breaks your conception of, totally, breaks your conception of what you think is normal or real, right? By doing that. So I just wanted to share something that I've personally done, and it's had a really magnificent, amazing effects. So, but particularly within this group over the last 2 years.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Any other closing thoughts on this reflection, or just people? But yeah, one of the ways, and this could be just a take home, for all of us, is trying to better lean into these these groups of people as a way to try to challenge ourselves and widen our circle, because I think definitely widening our circle takes some proactiveness. It definitely isn't going to be something we just naturally probably walk into, because it's probably going to take a little bit of work. But again, just in this journey of trying to cultivate this sacred love, I think hopefully people could see it as practical.
It's funny. So when you gave the exercise of, someone who disagreed with you constantly or had a very different personality type, my first two examples were outer circle. And it's on the outer circle, what they seemed to have in common was attacking integrity. So that one for me is something to Avantika's point earlier. I think I probably need to dig into and see why that particular thing bothered me. But then as we went into it, I went into the inner circle and started seeing, disagreements I had with my spouse, particularly in the first years of marriage, and my father, who had his own things. So it is, I think, the deeper we go into the inner circle, the quicker we'll get to the root, I think.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It's probably where there's the most pain there, but there's likely the most growth there as well.
Yeah.
So no, thanks for sharing, Paul. Avni or Stacey, wanting to share anything else?
I actually, I found it very, very difficult at the beginning. I was like, no, someone disagrees with me. I generally don't mix with them. But actually, and this comes from the inner circle again, I am on a different school of thought to my grandparents. Mm-hmm. But out of respect for them, first of all for my father, and then for them, it's grown, whereby I form that relationship, and I sit with a lot of respect and more open-mindedness, and it's taken a while. So yeah, that's where it's happened for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. And yeah, no, just appreciating everyone who's trying to hold the space in in an area that isn't always going to be easy. But again, this whole chapter on widening the circle, we'll go into the lessons from the Parijata tree next week. But again, it's a really, ultimately it'll be fulfilling for ourselves. It's a way to reach more people. All of us want to have some sort of positive contribution. So it really can help us a lot in our ability to want to positively influence and impact.
Yeah, our architect is called Parijat. So when I read that word, I was like, oh, I know. So when I see him next, he's from India, from Delhi. And I was like, I know now. You're the tree.
Cool. All right, everyone, we'll wrap it up there and see everybody next week.
Thank you everyone. So much. So grateful to each and every one of you, really. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, everyone.
Amazing conversation. Thank you.
Great, bye.